August 20th, 1989, Beverly Hills, California. A wealthy enclave home to movie stars and moguls, but behind the manicured lawns and glittering facades, a chilling scene unfolded. Jose and Kitty Menendez, a successful entertainment executive, and his wife lay dead in their den. They were brutally murdered, their bodies riddled with shotgun blasts. The crime scene was horrific. Blood splattered on the walls, shell casings littered the floor. This was no ordinary robbery. This was personal. Suspicion quickly fell upon the couple's sons, Lyle and Eric. They were young, handsome, and seemingly had it all. But appearances can be deceiving. Lyle, 21, and Eric, 18, became the prime suspects in their parents' murder. The brothers claimed they were out for the evening. They said they returned home to find a bloodbath. But the police weren't buying their story. There was something about the brothers' demeanor, a lack of emotion, that set off alarm bells. The investigation revealed a family hiding dark secrets. There were whispers of greed, resentment, and a possible motive for murder. The brothers, it seemed, stood to inherit a fortune. As the investigation deepened, a twisted tale of family dysfunction and alleged abuse began to emerge. The case of the Menendez brothers was about to become a media sensation. The nation was captivated. How could two young men from such a privileged background commit such a heinous crime? Was it cold-blooded murder, or a desperate act of self-defense? The answers, it seemed, lay buried deep within the family's troubled past. The Menendez brothers' trials were nothing short of a media circus. Cameras crowded the courtroom, hungry for every detail of this sensational case. Lyle and Eric, once carefree youths, now sat stoically at the defense table, their faces splashed across newspapers and television screens nationwide. The prosecution painted a picture of cold-blooded murder, motivated by greed and entitlement. They argued that Lyle and Eric, enraged by their parents' attempts to control their spending, planned and executed the murders to inherit their fortune. The defense, however, presented a starkly different narrative. They claimed the brothers acted in self-defense after years of horrific abuse at the hands of their parents. They alleged that Jose Menendez was a tyrannical and abusive father, both physically and sexually, and that Kitty Menendez was complicit in his crimes. They argued that the brothers, fearing for their lives, finally snapped and killed their parents in a desperate act of self-preservation. The nation was torn. Some believed the brothers were spoiled brats who murdered their parents for money. Others saw them as victims, driven to the brink by years of unspeakable abuse. The first trial in 1993 ended in a hung jury. The nation held its breath. Would justice be served? The second trial in 1995 captivated the nation once again. This time, the jury reached a verdict: guilty. Lyle and Eric Menendez were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. It seemed like the final chapter had been written in this American tragedy, but the story was far from over. Life behind bars is harsh: the clang of iron gates, the ever-present eyes of guards, the constant threat of violence. For Lyle and Eric Menendez, sentenced to spend the rest of their days in prison, it was a stark contrast to their former life of privilege. But even within the confines of prison walls, life, it seems, finds a way. In 1996, the brothers were initially sent to different prisons. They fought tirelessly for years to be reunited. Their wish was finally granted in 2018 when they were both transferred to the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, California. They were placed in the same housing unit, allowing them to reconnect after years of separation. While incarcerated, both brothers seemed determined to make amends for their past. They became involved in various prison programs, seeking to better themselves and help others. Lyle, the elder brother, founded a support group for inmates who had suffered childhood trauma. He became a voice for the voiceless, using his own experiences to help others heal. Eric, once a shy and withdrawn teenager, found his voice through art. He became known for his intricate drawings, often depicting scenes of hope and redemption. He also dedicated his time to helping terminally ill inmates, offering them comfort and companionship in their final days. Were these acts of genuine remorse or a calculated attempt to manipulate public opinion? The debate raged on. Just when the Menendez case seemed to fade from public consciousness, a bombshell dropped in 2023. A new docuseries, Menendez plus Menudo Boys Betrayed, sent shockwaves through the media. The series featured explosive allegations from Roy Rosello, a former member of the popular boy band Menudo. Rosello claimed that he had been sexually abused by Jose Menendez, the brother's father, years earlier. The alleged abuse, he said, took place at the height of Menudo's fame, during a time when Jose Menendez was an executive at the band's record label. This revelation threw the entire case into a new light. Could it be that Jose Menendez, the man portrayed by the prosecution as a strict but loving father, was hiding a sinister secret? Eric Menendez, in a statement released through his lawyer, acknowledged Rosello's allegations. He expressed empathy for Rosello's suffering and hoped that his story would encourage other victims of abuse to come forward. The timing of these revelations was critical. The Menendez brothers, once symbols of greed and entitlement, were now being viewed by some as potential victims of abuse themselves. The court of public opinion was shifting. Section 5. Netflix reignites the flames. Justice for the Menendez brothers. In 2024, the Menendez brothers were back in the spotlight, their case reignited by the streaming giant Netflix. The series, titled The Menendez Tapes: Untold Truths, delved into the brothers' claims of abuse, featuring never-before-seen home videos, diaries, and interviews with family members and experts. The series struck a chord with viewers, sparking a national conversation about abuse, justice, and the complexities of family dynamics. Social media exploded with hashtags like #JusticeForMenendez and #BelieveSurvivors. Celebrities like Kim Kardashian, known for her criminal justice reform advocacy, joined the chorus of voices calling for the brothers' release. The Netflix series, coupled with the shocking allegations in the Menudo documentary, breathed new life into the Menendez brothers' case. It seemed that the court of public opinion had shifted. No longer were the brothers universally condemned. Now, many saw them as victims of a deeply flawed justice system. The question was, would the legal system finally listen? Section 6. Gascon's Gamble. A new DA, new evidence, new hope. The renewed interest in the Menendez case had a profound impact on the legal landscape. In Los Angeles, newly elected District Attorney George Gascon, a staunch advocate for criminal justice reform, took notice. Gascon, known for his progressive policies, campaigned on a platform of reducing mass incarceration and addressing racial disparities in the justice system. The Menendez case, with its allegations of abuse and questionable trial tactics, presented a unique opportunity for Gascon to make a statement. He announced that his office would review the case, examining new evidence that had come to light in the years since the brothers' convictions. Among the new evidence was a letter allegedly written by Eric Menendez to his cousin just weeks before the murders. The letter, deemed inadmissible in the original trials, contained chilling details of the alleged abuse Eric endured at the hands of his father. Gascon, convinced that the brothers had been denied a fair trial, made a bold move. He filed a motion for resentencing, arguing that the brothers' claims of abuse, if presented in court today, could lead to a different outcome. Section 7. The Battle for Resentencing. Hochman draws a line in the sand. Gascon's decision to reopen the Menendez case was met with fierce opposition. Nathan J. Hochman, a seasoned prosecutor who campaigned on a tough-on-crime platform, defeated Gascon in the following election. Hochman, unlike his predecessor, believed that the Menendez brothers had received a fair trial and that their life sentences were justified. He vowed to fight Gascon's resentencing motion, arguing that it would set a dangerous precedent and undermine the integrity of the justice system. The battle lines were drawn. On one side stood Gascon, a symbol of progressive reform, fighting for a second chance for the Menendez brothers. On the other side stood Hochman, a staunch defender of law and order, determined to keep the brothers behind bars. The stage was set for a legal showdown that would captivate the nation once again. Section 8, Judgment Day, a second chance at freedom. After months of legal wrangling and delays, a date was finally set for the Menendez brothers' resentencing hearing. The courtroom was packed, filled with reporters, legal experts, and members of the public eager to witness this historic event. Lyle and Eric Menendez, their hair now graying, entered the courtroom. Their faces, etched with years of confinement, bore a mixture of hope and apprehension. Judge Gisik, known for her thoughtful and meticulous approach to the law, presided over the hearing. She listened intently as both the prosecution and the defense presented their arguments. The prosecution argued that the brothers, despite their claims of abuse, had committed a cold-blooded and premeditated murder. They maintained that the brothers' expressions of remorse were insincere and self-serving, a desperate attempt to manipulate the justice system. The defense, however, presented a compelling case for leniency. They argued that the brothers, traumatized by years of abuse, were not the same people who committed the crimes over 3 decades ago. They pointed to the brothers' exemplary behavior in prison, their dedication to rehabilitation, and their genuine remorse as evidence of their transformation. After days of testimony and deliberation, Judge Jessic made her ruling. She vacated the brothers' original sentences of life without parole and resentenced them to 50 years to life in prison. The courtroom erupted in gasps and murmurs. The judge's decision, while not an outright victory for the defense, offered a glimmer of hope. The Menendez brothers, for the first time in decades, had a chance at parole. Section 9. The Long Road Ahead, Parole, Public Opinion, and the Price of Forgiveness. The Menendez brothers' fate now rests in the hands of the parole board and, ultimately, California Governor Gavin Newsom. Their case has become a flashpoint in the national debate over criminal justice reform, sparking conversations about sentencing guidelines, the impact of childhood trauma, and the possibility of redemption. The brothers' supporters, galvanized by the resentencing, have vowed to continue their fight for justice. They argue that Lyle and Eric, having already served over 3 decades behind bars, have paid their debt to society and deserve a chance to rebuild their lives outside prison walls. Their opponents, however, remain steadfast in their belief that the brothers should never be released. They argue that the brutality of their crime, regardless of their claims of abuse, warrants a life behind bars. The Menendez brothers' journey is far from over. They face an uphill battle for parole, burdened by the notoriety of their case and the enduring power of public opinion. Their story serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of the human experience, the enduring impact of trauma, and the elusive nature of forgiveness.